Snow falls over, cold water like judgment. A widow, 3 boys, and a town that won't open its doors. But fate rides a dark horse down from the ridge, a man carved from silence, carrying both damnation and deliverance in his shadow. The boarding house door slammed hard enough to rattle the walls. The boys flinched. Sarah didn't. She'd learned not to. Mrs. Pritchard stood in the doorway, arms crossed tight over her starched apron, face carved from winter itself. "I don't rent to women without husbands," she said. "Bad for my reputation." Sarah held her youngest, Tommy, close. The boy shivered beneath a threadbare blanket, trusting eyes wide and scared. Ben, 8, stood beside her, jaw clenched, trying to be a man. Jacob, 11, tall for his age, already wore the look of someone who'd seen too much to believe in kindness. "But Vera said, just for the night? There's a storm coming." Pritchard's lips thinned. "Should have thought of that before your husband got himself killed." Then she reached for the door. "Good evening, Mrs. Brennan." The lock clicked. Outside, snow began to fall, heavy, wet, silent. It coated the street like ash from a slow-burning fire. Sarah stood there in the cold, the weight of the town pressing on her back. Every window on Main Street glowed with lamplight. Faces flickered behind glass, watching, whispering. Across the road, Mr. Calhoun of the bank stood in his office window, arms folded, mouth curved in a smirk that didn't quite reach his eyes. She'd seen that look before, the kind that shows watching a fall. "May?" Ben's voice cracked. "What do we do?" Sarah turned toward the wagon hitched at the post, everything they owned packed into 2 trunks. 1 horse. 3 boys. No money. No kid. No mercy. She looked toward the dark hills beyond town, the wilderness rising like the edge of another life.
If they stayed, they'd freeze.
If they left, they might never be found. She climbed onto the wagon seat. "We'll camp past the ridge." The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage, the kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every trail tells a story. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. At the edge of town, Sarah looked back once. Every window burned warm and bright. Every door stayed shut. She turned away. They rode into the dark. The wind found them first, sharp, endless, cruel. It cut through their coats and into their bones. The boys huddled close. The horse stumbled. The road vanished under white. Then she saw him, a figure on the ridge above, still watching. A rider, black against the snow, motionless as stone. Her hand went to the rifle beneath the seat. The rider moved slow, deliberate, descending the ridge with the easy balance of a man who trusted both himself and the storm. When he reached them, he didn't speak right away. He studied her, a woman hollowed by loss and still standing. Then, in a low voice that carried over the wind, he said, "Follow me." Sarah's grip tightened on the rifle. "I don't know you." "No, ma'am," he said evenly. "But I know that trail you're on leads nowhere. And I know this storm'll kill you and them boys by midnight." He looked past her, to the children shivering in the wagon, to Tommy's trembling lips, Ben's stubborn silence, Jacob's forced defiance. "You, our bass in every quace." Then he turned his horse and started up the hill. "Don't, your choice." Snow fell heavier now, each flake a whisper of warning. Tommy coughed, a small, brittle sound that made Sarah's heart break clean in 2. She slapped the reins. "Is countant forgot not of. You tied at Mariclony. Sudrecht as a selter, you lik strigi. As dat tibenstas verst trace, if Adri here with Sabri.
and takyums of wand.
Go on, she whispered to the horse. They followed. The cabin appeared out of the white like a dream half remembered. Smoke rose from the chimney, thin, steady, alive. A barn loomed behind it, and beyond that a small grave marked with a wooden cross. The rider dismounted and opened the door. Then, warm firelight spilled into the snow, golden as forgiveness. "Is inside," he said. "All of you." The boys stumbled in first, drawn by the heat. Sarah lingered on the threshold, studying the man as he hung his hat by the door. He moved with quiet purpose, every gesture stripped of waste. He pulled a canvas sheet from a peg and strung it across the room. "Boys by the fire," he said. "You take the bed. I'll sleep in the barn." "I don't take charity," Sarah said, voice sharp with pride and fear. He looked at her then, really looked. His eyes were dark, tired, and steady. "Then call it a trade," he said. "You cook, I'll pretend it's charity so my pride don't suffer." Tommy was asleep before the man stepped outside. Through the frosted glass, Sarah watched him lead her horse into the barn, moving slow, talking low. Then he stopped at the grave, took off his hat, stood there in the falling snow until he looked like part of it. A man who hadn't yet learned how to come back inside on that Sarah's muscle. Morning came gray and brittle. The boys were still asleep by the hearth. On the table waited a tin pot of coffee, strong, black, still steaming. He'd left it for her. His name was Cole Tucker. She learned that when Jacob asked him, wary but polite. "Mr. Tucker," she said. That afternoon, as they worked side by side stacking wood, "We'll move on soon. I don't want to bring you trouble." "You won't," he said. "Storm's not done yet. Let it pass." 3 days it snowed. 3 days they stayed. Sarah didn't sit still. She cooked, cleaned, taught the boys their letters by firelight. The cabin began to look less like a tomb and more like a home, her presence filling it with something Cole hadn't known he missed. He watched from the doorway one night as she brushed the snow from Ben's coat, humming under her breath. The sound made something deep in him ache, a memory of laughter that used to live here. He sat on the porch next morning, carving a small wooden horse for Tommy. His hands shook, not from cold, from memory. Daniel had been 5 when the fever took him. Same age as Tommy. Same eyes. The knife slipped. Blood welled bright on his thumb.
"Mr. Tucker," Sarah said softly, stepping outside.
"You're bleeding." "It's nothing." She came closer, tore a strip from her apron, and wrapped his thumb. Her hands were rough but gentle. When she tied the knot, their eyes met. "Thank you," he murmured. "24. On the road. For..." She smiled faintly. "You didn't have to help us."
Yes, I did.
The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was alive. It said everything words would only ruin. Then came the sound of hooves. Cole rose, eyes narrowing. A rider approached, Deputy Walsh, red-faced from cold and duty. He dismounted, handed Cole a folded paper. "Message from the church council," he said. "Folks are concerned." Cole opened the note, read it once. "Mr. Tucker, a widow woman staying unchaperoned in your home presents an improper situation. For decency's sake, we advise she move along." Sarah saw his jaw tighten. He crumpled the letter slow, the paper crackling like frost. "Whoosh. Tell them," he said, voice calm but cutting, "she's staying till spring." Walsh hesitated. "Cole Calhoun's behind this. He can make trouble." "Then tell him to come make it." The deputy rode off. Sarah stood in the doorway, arms folded, snow blowing around her skirts. "Ruin you for helping us." "They already did," Cole said quietly. 3 years back. He glanced toward the grave behind the barn. This might be the first thing I've done right since that afternoon.
Oh, fuel.
By week's end, he'd started building an addition, new walls rising from frozen earth. Jacob joined him, hammer in hand. "What's this for?" the boy asked. "You need a room," Cole said. "Can't sleep on the floor forever." Jacob watched him. "Why you doing this?"
Cole drove a nail slow and true, because you're here, and you need it.
By sunset, the frame stood proud against the dying light. From the window, Sarah watched him, shoulders broad, breath white in the air. He didn't look back, but he felt her gaze, and for the first time in years, the weight in his chest lifted just enough to breathe. The sound of the hammer echoed through the valley like a heartbeat, steady, human, and alive. That night, as the boys slept behind the curtain, Sarah sat beside him by the fire. "You work like a man trying to earn something," she said softly. "Maybe I am. What is it you're earning, Mr. Tucker?" A notion to trawl away. "Des in your people." He stared into the flames. A second chance. The fire crackled, throwing light across their faces. Outside, the wind whispered through the pines. Sarah closed her eyes. And for the first time since the world had taken everything, she didn't dream of running. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every trail tells a story. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. But most just wanted a place to call their own. Gista the way clucks and the nethamur fan. Doltney has a different lives. Dothing his dayful lives. When you sate me right there. A widow and a haunted man build something fragile between storms, a shelter made of mercy and unspoken want. But Coldwater's eyes are always watching, and decency has teeth sharper than hunger. Wind turned mean. Days folded into each other, gray and endless. Each morning began with the hiss of the kettle, the scrape of boots, and the rhythm of Cole Tucker's axe echoing through the valley. Sarah rose before dawn, feeding the fire, coaxing warmth into the cabin before the boys stirred. She'd watch them sleeping, 3 small miracles she refused to lose, and wonder how long mercy could last in a world like this. By daylight, smoke rose straight into the still sky. The valley lay buried in white silence, broken only by the creak of trees and the dull thud of Cole's hammer. Inside, life had found a rhythm, quiet, patient, new. Sarah's hands never stopped. She mended, scrubbed, cooked, taught. The cabin, once hollow, began to sound like living again. The crackle of fire, the clatter of dishes, Dade Tommy's laughter. It all filled the emptiness like breath returning to lungs. At night, the storm pressed against the walls, but inside, the glow held steady, gold and soft as hope. Cole would sit by the hearth, sharpening his knife, listening to her read from her husband's old Bible. Her voice was low, melodic, the kind of voice that made silence lean in to listen. Sometimes, Tommy fell asleep with his head in her lap. Then sketched by the fire, tongue between his teeth. Jacob, forever caught between boy and man, lingered at the edge of the light, pretending not to listen but hearing every word. Cole would glance at her when she wasn't looking, at the way the fire lit her hair, at the curve of her hand resting on her child's back. He never said what stirred in him. Senda who his guide Drogal peoples will lead. And if I perspective
How petit's Beth T much.
the air between them said it for him. Who's of line? On the 4th week, the storm finally broke. The sun came out sharp and blinding, turning the valley into a sea of crushed glass. Sarah stepped outside, drawing her shawl tight. Cole was in the yard mending the gate, sleeves rolled, breath steaming. He worked with slow precision, the kind of patience that comes from living through loss. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage, the kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every trail tells a story. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. He nodded. Maybe I'll ride to town tomorrow. Fetch flour, nails. She hesitated. It might be better if I go. That made him look up. Why? You know why. He studied her, jaw set. Let them talk. You can afford to say that, she said quietly. You've got nothing left they can take. The words slipped out too sharp. She saw the pain flash across his eyes. And I didn't mean...
Yes, you did, he said softly. And you're right.
He turned back to the gate. The sound of hammering filled the silence that followed. That night, neither of them spoke much. But the quiet wasn't cold. It was full with things too tender or too dangerous to name. Emma teased and broken nice scrounds. We meet to be to spend thing outside Banyo Hoyld Suleiman. Allowing me, you're lying at the call. Morning brought more snow, light as breath. Jacob helped Cole notch timbers for the new room. The boy's face was tight with thought. Cole watched him work a while before saying, You swing that hammer like it owes you money. Jacob didn't smile. I don't like how they talk about my ma. Cole stopped. Who? Everybody? At the store. The church. The boy's voice trembled with anger he didn't know how to carry.
They'd say she's living in sin.
Cole drove a nail, slow and careful. People talk when they're scared, he said. Your ma scares them. She's stronger than they are. Jacob frowned. You scared too? Cole looked toward the grave by the barn. Every day. The boy didn't answer. He said, Isn't it the big in hell? We're hip in the tower. Up didn't, he used to guessed. At the psalm, we're out doing the ray. The big and hulling juggle use infinite out. But when he lifted the hammer again, his swing was steady. Joseph Keenal, Bar is now bien o musafiste. That afternoon, Sarah watched from the window as Cole stood by that grave again, his wife's. Eleanor Tucker and their boy, Daniel. The snow had nearly covered the marker, but he brushed it clean with his glove, head bowed. Sarah knew that kind of grief, the kind that stays, even when you've made peace with it, the kind that becomes part of your breathing, and tugged her sleeve. Can I go help Mr. Tucker? She smiled faintly. He'd like that, honey. When the boy ran out into the snow, Sarah turned back to the pot simmering on the stove. The scent of stew filled the room, rich, warm, real. She's missed, she stirred it slowly, blinking fast when her eyes blurred. UNT, spouting speech, by. By the next morning, word had spread. Cold water had a new scandal. Cole Tucker, the widower, the recluse, was keeping a woman in his cabin. A pretty one, a widow with 3 boys. And that, to the town's good Christians, was sin enough. The deputy came again that night. Cole met him outside under a sky bruised with snow. Cooler, Walsh said, shifting in the saddle. Calhoun's stirring the pot, says the church'll make it official. County notice. You send her away, or they'll bring law into it. Cole's face didn't change. Tell him to ride out here and do it himself. Ian Cruz. Whatever you have beats Decker. You tell him that Tucker said, turning away. Walsh hesitated, then rode off. Through the window, Sarah saw the whole thing, the way Cole's shoulders tensed, the way he stood alone against the cold. Her heart twisted. When he came back inside, she asked quietly, What did they say? He shrugged. Same as always. Too much decency, not enough sense. I'm not sending you away, Sarah. His voice was low, final. Not now, not ever. Fire crackled between them. She wanted to thank him, but the words caught in her throat. So she did what she could. She stayed close enough for the warmth to reach him. This is Untamed Day. Days passed, slow and heavy with snow. Cole worked on the addition. Jacob helped. Ben and Tommy gathered kindling. Sarah sang while she cooked, not full songs, just soft bits of melody that turned the cabin into something gentler than survival. Every night, the boys fell asleep by the fire. Every night, she and Cole sat in the half-light, saying little, sharing everything. He told her once about Eleanor, the fever, the doctor who never came. His voice broke on the name of his son. She took his hand and didn't let go until the fire burned down to embers. System voice to situday, some shirt from resistanti, masapia. But Coldwater's patience was running out, and pride, once stirred, has a taste for blood. Late one afternoon, 4 riders came down the valley, Calhoun in front, Reverend Mills behind him, and 2 elders, trying to look righteous and not afraid. They dismounted in the yard. Cole came out, rifle leaning against the fence post. Calhoun smiled thin as wire. Cole Tucker, we're here as friends. Your arrangement, Calhoun said smoothly, is causing talk. We're asking, politely, that you end it. She's a widow with 3 children, Cole said. Where do you expect them to go? The county can manage them, said Reverend Mills, temporarily. Sarah stepped onto the porch. You will not take my boys. Calhoun's eyes glittered. No one's taking anyone, ma'am. We're simply maintaining order. Cole's hand brushed the rifle. Orders overrated. Calhoun leaned forward in the saddle. Careful, Tucker. The wilderness is unforgiving to men who forget their place.
Zach told.
Voice dropped. You threatening me? Wenad. Calhoun smiled, just being neighborly. They rode off, hooves carving deep lines in the snow. Sarah stood beside Cole, trembling. You should have said more, she whispered.
Jamie now.
Then why didn't you? He looked toward the horizon. Because talking to men like that don't change a thing. The fear in her eyes cut him deeper than any bullet could. That night, she began to pack. In trance. What experience? Ihr forstes mo virklos of spiel. When he came in, she was folding clothes by lantern light. You leaving, he said flatly. I can't stay and make you an outcast. He wanted to stop her. To tell her that without her, this place turned hollow again, but the words stayed trapped behind pride and pain. Do what you have to, he said finally, and walked out into the snow. The storm came that night, fast and merciless, and screamed through the trees, snow hammering the walls. They were trapped together once more, the world outside gone white and wild. Cole kept the fire alive while Sarah sat staring into it, her boys asleep beneath quilts. After a long silence, he said, You were thinking of leaving when it cleared. And now, she stared into the flames. You ever have a dream that feels like a warning? He nodded once. I begged my husband not to go to the mine that day, she said. Dreamed the earth swallowed him whole. He laughed. Her eyes filled. Then it happened. Cole looked at her, eyes soft. I couldn't save mine either. Norian and Daniel. He nodded. It came quick. I rode for the doctor. Storm caught me halfway. By the time I got back, he didn't finish. You can't fight a storm, she whispered. I should have tried harder. You would have died too, she said gently. Then there'd be 3 graves instead of 1. He stared at the fire. You saved your boys. That counts for something. Her breath trembled. Maybe. He reached out, took her hand. No, maybe. Tears welled, quiet and real. She let them fall. When she finally looked up, her voice broke on the words, "Thank you."
For what?
For seeing me.
He pulled her close. The kiss was slow, born of grief, not desire. Outside, the wind screamed. Inside, two hearts remembered what warmth felt like. Spring edges close, but cold water's chill runs deeper than snow. When law and gossip come for the widow and the man who sheltered her, one choice remains: silence or truth. And in that truth, spoken plain before God and men, a man who lost everything learns what it means to stand again. Ocean, oh, the storm broke at dawn. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage, the kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every trail tells a story. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. But most just wanted a place to call their own. Inside the cabin, the fire was low, its coals faintly glowing. Sarah was already packing when Cole came in from the barn. He saw the papers first, spread across the table, stamped and sealed. Eviction, county seal, language twisted by men who'd never known hunger. "What's that?" he asked. "Is now across again the cheese." She didn't meet his eyes. "They're taking the boys if I can't prove I have means, a home, property, something. There is appreciation to the funny way." End of February. Maybe sooner if Calhoun pushes it. Cole picked up the notice, jaw tightening. The ink blurred where his thumb smudged it. "Not while I'm breathing." "So other coups," she began. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small gold ring. Old, worn, smooth by time. His wife's, Eleanor's. He pressed it into Sarah's palm. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. But most just wanted a place to call their own. She stared at him, trembling. "That won't stop them." "I mean it," he said quietly. "You're mine to protect." The words hung there, not possession, but promise. Outside, the snow began to melt. Inside, the air changed. Any much of place is Reese. She went anyway. Stubborn as frost in spring, she hitched the wagon herself. "The town needs to see I'm not hidin'," she said. Cole wanted to argue, but she was already gone, the wagon creaking down the valley road. He watched her until the white swallowed her whole. He'd known it from the start. Coldwater wasn't a place for mercy. And men like Calhoun never fought fair here. The town hall was packed, pews filled, windows fogged, the smell of sweat and judgment thick in the air. Calhoun presided at the front, Reverend Mills by his side, his Bible open like a weapon. Sarah sat alone near the back. The ring caught the light. Her boys waited with a neighbor in the alley, out of sight, but close enough to hear if things went wrong. Cole stood by the door, hat in hand, face carved from stone. He wasn't sure why he came to protect her, or to confess his own cowardice. Calhoun began with the smooth confidence of a man used to owning both land and conscience. "We're gathered to address concerns regarding Mr. Cole Tucker and Mrs. Sarah Brennan," he said. "This arrangement compromises decency and community trust." The room hummed, whispers, half-murmured prayers, the shuffle of boots. "It's come to our attention," Calhoun continued, "that Mr. Tucker may be exploiting this widow's circumstance, perhaps to claim her late husband's unregistered mining shares. Or perhaps, out here let it linger, for less respectable reasons.
Eyes turn.
Sarah's stomach knotted. She saw faces she'd fed, greeted, trusted, all watching her, like she was something shameful. Reverend Mills cleared his throat. "Brother Tucker, do you wish to speak?" Cole looked up. For a heartbeat, he almost did, but the weight of every grave he'd ever stood over silenced him. His jaw clenched. He said nothing. The hush that followed was heavy as sin. Calhoun smiled. "I see." He turned to the crowd. "In the absence of clarity, I propose we place Mrs. Brennan and her sons under county supervision until proper arrangements can be made." That was when Sarah rose. Her voice cut through the murmur like a crack of thunder.
"You don't get to take my boy."
Calhoun spread his hands, mock gentle. "Mrs. Brennan? Don't you, Mrs. Brennan, me. You'd take what little we have left and call it law." The room shifted, the tension alive now, electric. "You want to know what this is?" she said, eyes blazing. "It's greed dressed up as decency. You want my husband's claim. You want Mr. Tucker's land. You want control, and you call it God's work." Calhoun's smile faltered. "Careful, ma'am." "Or what Sarah said coldly. You'll ruin me? You already did." And she walked out. Every step echoed. Every face turned to watch her go. Cole's chest felt hollow as she passed him, eyes wet but fierce. He didn't reach for her, didn't move. Only shame held him there. His courage. She left Coldwater at first light. The boys bundled in the wagon, silent. Snow fell light, ghostly. Cole stood in the doorway of his cabin, watching them vanish down the trail. He didn't call out, didn't follow. The half-built room behind him looked like a wound in wood. For 2 days, the cabin was silent. He ate little, slept less, spoke only to the grave behind the barn. "I failed you," he whispered. "Failed Daniel. Failed them too." The bottle beside him was half empty. The man beside it, nearly the same. Then came the hoofbeats. Old Moses, the blacksmith, filled the doorway like a wall. "You done feeling sorry for yourself?" Cole didn't look up. Not yet. "Hurry! We got work to do!" Moses tossed a folded paper onto the table. Cole unfolded it. A deed. 40 acres, water rights. Signed by Moses himself. "What am I supposed to do with this?" "Give it to her," Moses said. "Make her a landowner, legal and untouchable. Then stand up and make the bastards choke on their own words." Cole stared at him. "I can't." Recame faker. "If you gecko, you feel." Moses leaned close. "You didn't save your wife. You didn't save your boy. But you can save her. And if you die trying, at least you'll die standing." Cole looked toward the grave. The wind rolls across the open plains, whispering stories of men who came before. Dust rises beneath the hooves of tired horses, and the sun bleeds gold across the endless sky. Out here, names don't matter much. What counts is courage. The kind that shows when the odds are long and the bullets are few. Every trail tells a story. Every campfire hides a memory. Some came for gold, others for glory. But most just wanted a place to call their own.
The wind moved through the pines, soft, like a voice he used to know.
He stood. Navrat heart capin, sealing there. Cistern resgot. Before sunrise, the clerk at the county office nearly dropped his coffee when Cole Tucker walked in. "Need to file a transfer," Cole said, setting the deed down. "And around. Then stay awake." He signed his name slow, careful hand shaking, heart steady. The clerk stamped it, impressed the seal, and stared at him.
"You're giving away your property."
In the vein to a crazy, and she could not kind rely, like not horses, say your scalp. Well, Omer, when this is the matter with help. And some saying, wildhead. How? Giving Cole said, setting it right, the toes, at the couplet breeding to Dido. By dawn, he was already riding north. The mountains glowed pale in the new light, snow turning to water beneath his horse's hooves. He rode straight through Coldwater, didn't stop, didn't look left or right. The church bells were ringing when he dismounted at the steps. He walked inside. Every pew was full, Calhoun, Mills, half the town. The sermon faltered mid-word when Cole Tucker filled the doorway. "Shut up, Calhoun," he said. Gasps rippled through the hall. He walked to the altar, boots loud in the stunned silence. Turned to face the crowd. "You want to judge Sarah Brennan," he said, voice steady as a hammer. "Then judge me." Lim held its breath. "I asked her to stay. I built her a home. If that's indecent, then your God's got stranger morals than mine." Reverend Mills started to protest, but Cole cut him off. He reached into his coat and pulled out the deed. Filed last night, 40 acres, water rights, all of it in her name, legal, binding, permanent. He looked straight at Calhoun. "She's a landowner now. Her boys have a home. You can tell the county to go to hell." Calhoun stood, red-faced. "You fool. You just gave away your future." Cole's eyes burned. "I already lost my future once. Don't mind losing it again for the right reason." Calhoun sneered. "You think that makes you noble?"
"No, Cole," said softly. "It makes me free."
Then his voice rose, hard as iron. "You want outrage? I'll give you one. It's an outrage you let a woman and her children freeze while you prayed over your supper. It's an outrage that decency means obedience and mercy means weakness. It's an outrage you call that man's work." The silence after was holy. No one moved. Then a sound, the scrape of a bench. Old Moses stood. "He's right. The experience of Balkrol I Bushi Dost House with I. I'm a school teacher, then a rancher, then the widow Henderson, whispering, 'So do I.'" Calhoun's face twisted. He shoved past the pews, muttering curses, and stormed out into the light. Cole turned to the rest.
You done letting men like him tell you what's righteous?
No one answered. But no one looked away either. He nodded once. Then maybe this town's still got a chance. He set his hat back on and walked out. The doors swung shut behind him. He rode north. The trail was half melted now, rivers running through the ice. By noon, he saw smoke rising, a small cabin against the ridge. Sarah stepped out when she heard the hoofbeats, rifle in hand. When she saw him, she froze. "Cole," she whispered. He dismounted slow, hat in hand. The boys came out behind her, Tommy wide-eyed, Ben holding tight to Jacob's arm.
"Tommy, Ben, Jacob Cole," said softly.
Tommy ran first. Cole caught him up, lifting him high, his laughter breaking through the years of silence. Ben followed, hugging him around the waist. Jacob stayed where he was, jaw clenched, eyes wet. "I'm sorry," Cole said. "I was afraid, and I let that fear make me a coward. You left us," Jacob said, voice shaking. "I know, and I'll regret it till I die. But I'm here now. I ain't leaving again." The boy hesitated, then stepped forward and fell against him. Cole held all three tight, eyes closed. When he looked up, Sarah was still by the door, unreadable. He walked to her, pulled a folded paper from his coat. "It's yours," he said. "Land, deed, water rights, signed and sealed. You and the boys, you got a home, no matter what happens." Her hands trembled as she read it. "You gave me Moses's land." "Didn't give it," he said quietly. "Set it right." She looked at him. Really looked. "You stood up in front of the whole town."
Every last one he said. Told him I'd stand with you till the ground takes me.
Her eyes filled. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the ring, the one he'd given her that day in the snow. She slid it back onto her finger. "Then make it real, Cole Tucker," she said softly. "Make it a family." He didn't move for a breath, then crossed the space between them and kissed her. Gentle, true, kind that ends every storm. The boys whooped. Ben shouted something about supper. Tommy laughed until he hiccuped. Even Jacob smiled, shy and small. Cole laughed too, a sound he hadn't made in years. But as Q say now, sav came. 3 months later, spring came full. The valley bloomed green, wildflowers spilling across the graves behind the house. The cabin stood strong now, new room finished, porch sturdy, garden fenced. Sarah sat shelling peas on the steps, the boys chasing each other through tall grass. Cole leaned against the post, carving another toy horse. They'd been married by the creek under a sky clear enough to believe in forever. Old Moses officiated. Calhoun was gone, his schemes exposed, his name forgotten. The town had softened. Weather and apologies had found their way to the doorstep. Life wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was theirs. Sarah looked up from her work, smiling as the boys' laughter echoed through the hills. Cole met her gaze, the sunlight catching in her hair. "Am I any?" she asked. He looked out over the land, green, wide, alive. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I'm home." She took his hand. "So are we." The sun dipped low, turning the valley gold. A meadowlark sang somewhere in the trees. They walked inside together. The door closed soft behind them. Outside, the wind moved through the grass, not cruel now, not cold. The kind of wind that carries on.